Today, I'm going to get into a lot of trouble in the comment section specifically. I do a lot of reacting on this channel to other people's lists, other people's takes, other people's videos, and I think it's time for me to put out my own list out there, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I am putting out my top 10 to 15 NBA players list. But nevertheless, the point of today's video is for you guys to see what my top 10 essentially looks like, who is outside of the top 10, who is in what tier, who is in the best in the world conversation for me. Now, I am going to put the Stephen A. Smith disclaimer out there. The list is fluid. The list is fluid. The tiers are there for a reason. If you want to argue in the comment section between 8 and 5, go ahead and do it. As long as they are in the same tier, that to me is a sign of I can wake up tomorrow and have a completely different order, but in general, they should still be in that same tier. So the way I want to do this video is essentially go through this pool right here and just start putting every single player in whatever tier I want them to be in, and then we'll fix the order at the end of the video, and that should make things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more dynamic. Starting with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is in the best in the world conversation to me. The main thing holding him back from me, outside of the other guys just being as good as they are, is the fact that the health issue is an issue. But outside of that, there is nothing to really question about Joel Embiid's talent. For the last 2 years, we're looking at a 33 to 35 point per game scorer on insane efficiency. You know, he's giving you 10 to 12 rebounds a game. He's giving you 4 to 6 assists. He's giving you two-way play. Joel Embiid is him. Joel Embiid is him. I don't as much as I make fun of the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid not getting past the second round, yeah, Joel Embiid is in the best in the world conversations. No ifs, ands, or buts. Next up, we have Luka the Don Doncic, and he's also going to be in the best in the world conversations. He is also going to be in that tier as well. Had a fantastic season last season. Pretty hard to argue that it wasn't his best season ever in his still, honestly, young career. One of the best offensive weapons the game has ever seen, and it is scary to me that I can make an argument that he still even hasn't peaked yet. I don't know. Like, Luka is that guy. Stephen Curry, I am sorry, but you are not in the best in the world conversations anymore, and that's okay. You're 35, 36, but I do think you are still in the tier below. You are in the S tier. I still feel like Stephen Curry is still Stephen Curry. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like this last season, he had an off season, and I don't think it's fair enough to use that one season to just drop him all the way down. I do still think in terms of the quality of player that Stephen Curry is, all of these things that we've been raving about him throughout all these years, he is still that. I just think it was a matter of an offseason. Next up, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I personally still think he's in the best in the world conversations. He's lost a decent amount of steam in that conversation just because Embiid and Jokic have just been that great over these last 2 years. Luka has been great as well. In combination with Giannis being injured in the playoffs and having some underperformances in there as well, specifically when it comes to the elimination games. But again, in terms of the quality of player that Giannis is, we're still talking about a two-way beast giving you 30 points a game, 12, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. You know what I'm saying? There may be a little bit of a drop in the playoffs, but it's honestly not that crazy for Giannis. One of the best play finishers in the league. He has his own type of gravity. Like, Giannis is that guy. And I really wish this next upcoming season that he really reminds people that, yo, I am truly in this best in the world conversation. Y'all better stop playing with me. Another guy in the best in the world conversation, and I would say right now he is the best in the world, despite having an off second round, is Nikola Jokic. Arguably the most complete offensive weapon in NBA history. The regular season did nothing but prove that as he wins his 3rd MVP in 4 years. And even though in the playoffs he wasn't as dominant as he was the year prior, it still wasn't so bad to the point where we got to remove Nikola Jokic from best in the world conversations. Don't need to overthink it. Nikola Jokic is in that top tier. Next up, we have Jason Tatum. Do I have Jason Tatum in the best in the world conversations? No, I do not. All right. I do not have Jason Tatum in best in the world conversations. I do think he's in that 6 to 11, 12 tier, essentially the tier below the best in the world conversation. Coming off his first ring as the #1 option on his team, the best player on his team. I don't want to hear the JB, JT conversations unless you're trolling. That's fine if you're trolling, W troll. But Jason Tatum's development to being one of, if not the most versatile player in the league has definitely been a joy to see. Because I remember when he came into the league, man, I did not see this two-way player, let alone this really complete player that Jason Tatum has become. Definitely still a flawed player. I still don't think he's consistent enough to be in the best in the world conversation. I do think that is the next leap for him, is just honestly just being way more consistent, being way more efficient. And I do think even if he had the same shot diet, just being more efficient would up his volume numbers in tandem with it. So definitely excited to see what Jason Tatum does next season, but just this past season ultimately did what needed to be done for his team. But in terms of the player that he is, he's just a notch below the best in the world conversation. And it's okay. It's fine. I'm cool with it. He is still only 26. Now let me chill. Next up, we have Kevin Durant. And I'm going to say he is also in this S tier as well. Kevin Durant just reacted to a video from Nonstop yesterday, and yeah, we are taking this man for granted, y'all. We are taking this man for granted, and I am on the KD is underrated train. Not to say that he's not versatile, because he still is, but compared to everyone else, he's not versatile enough to be in the best in the world conversation. He's not dominant enough on both ends, and even if you are going to be dominant on just the offensive end, like a Luka, he's not versatile enough offensively to be in that conversation. Still one of the most efficient scorers in the league, one of the best shooters in the league. You could honestly, depending on what you view as versatility, still make the argument that KD is the most versatile player in the league in terms of just plug and play. Like, there is no system in the league that cannot use a 6'11" shooting guard with a handle that shoots 50, 40, 90. Like, I don't know what team could not use a Kevin Durant. So technically, KD is arguably in the versatility argument as well, but nevertheless, KD in year, I don't even know at this point, 16, 17, still giving you 30 points a game, roughly, still giving you 6 to 8 rebounds, still giving you 4 to 5 assists on insane efficiency. KD is that guy, and we really do got to stop playing with him. Speaking of another guy that is still that guy, and we got to stop playing with him, that is LeBron James. Now, I feel like LeBron James, if I'm gonna keep it a whole stack, man. If it's a 1-game scenario, if it's a 3-5 game scenario, LeBron James, like, if you ask me to draft right now, #1 overall, 1-game scenario, LeBron still got a case, man. I'm gonna keep it a whole stack. 3 games, LeBron still has an argument. But I feel like for an 82-game sample size, what that means at his age, what LeBron is as a defender at this point in time, I don't think anyone should be mad that LeBron is just a tier below the best in the world conversation. Next up, we have SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and me personally, the season that he had last season is on par with the best in the world conversation season. He was in the top 3 conversations for a majority of the season, and he earned that, and that does say a lot, and I think he's still under 25, which is insane. However, my thing with SGA right now is just, if I'm thinking best in the world conversation, what is the argument for SGA? And I just don't think he has an argument right now. Is he the best offensive player in the league? No, that would probably still go to Jokic or Luka. Is he the best defender in the league? Definitely not. Is he the best two-way player in the league in terms of the combination of offense and defense? That'll probably go to Giannis. JT might have a better argument in that stance than SGA. Joel Embiid is in there as well. So for me, I think personally SGA is at the top of S, and we'll get into the order at the end of this video. But SGA right now, he's on the cusp. I will give him that, but he's still in that tier below for me. But shout out to SGA. Next up, we have Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis is a pretty clear S to me. Pretty clear S to me. And I feel like for me, Anthony Davis is the most volatile S tier player in terms of, I can wake up one day and think, honestly, he's probably closer to the front of this S tier. and then the next day feel like Anthony Davis just isn't consistent enough. He isn't the offensive engine that these other players are, and he's probably near the bottom of this list, despite him still being very valuable offensively. But shout out to Anthony Davis, man. I don't think he gets enough credit for the development that he's had over these last couple of years, just because Embiid, Giannis, and Jokic have just been that dominant. But in terms of AD in a vacuum, Anthony Davis has made the adjustment that everyone has wanted AD to make. Everyone was begging for AD to be a 5. And AD has made the proper adjustments physically and both in his game to be one of the most dominant 5s in the league. AD last season was, 25, 12, elite rim protector, just one of the best defenders in the league, while giving you good efficiency. Like, Anthony Davis is that guy. Also had his healthiest season in a while. Didn't get injured. They just, lost to the Nuggets in 4. But Anthony Davis is that guy. And I feel like he just gets snubbed in a lot of these conversations because, to be honest with you, it may be a part of team construction in terms of the team is not built for AD to be maximized. In my opinion, it's still built for, honestly, LeBron to be maximized. Compared to like how Embiid's team is structured, how Giannis's team is structured, how Jokic's team is structured. Like, the Lakers roster construction is just all over the place, and it's definitely not made to maximize Anthony Davis. So I would like to see a season where the Lakers do that. But until then, Anthony Davis is still that guy, and I think he's rightfully earned a spot in this S tier, no questions about it. Now, the rest of the pool is, I think, where things get a little bit tricky, because there are some players up here that you can truly make an argument is in this S tier, especially for the season that they just had. And there are players that you can make a case that they're just not good enough. Like KD and this player, Curry and this player, they're not on the same tier. You know what I'm saying? Just not yet, or he's just not that guy. Starting with Anthony Edwards. If I had to put a pin on it, I don't think Anthony Edwards is there. I don't think Anthony Edwards is there yet. I think Anthony Edwards is in the tier below. Yes, I think Anthony Edwards does have a chance over these next 2 to 3 years to obviously climb up to that S tier. But I feel like from what I saw last season offensively, he just isn't there. And defensively, while being one of the best two-way players in the league, he's just not dominant enough on that end to really claim that. But offensively, he still has playmaking issues. He still has processing issues that I feel like will be patched up essentially which is a crazy term to use, these next couple of years. But just right now, until I see it on an NBA court, he's just a tier below these guys, and that's perfectly fine. Ant is 22? I'd be concerned if he wasn't S tier by the time he's 25, but right now, it's cool for Anthony Edwards just to be in the tier below. Next up, we have Donovan Mitchell. And D. Mitch, listen, man, these tiers of players, in my opinion, are the tier of players where when you roll out that ball, they can still play with the best of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, Donovan Mitchell on any given night can outplay Steph Curry. He can outplay JT, KD, LeBron, SGA, AD. It's going to be harder once you face, a Jokic, a Luka, a Giannis, and an Embiid. But this S tier right here, D-Mitch can hang with them, in my opinion. But I just don't think he's versatile enough to be in that S tier. And even as a scorer, I don't think he's consistent enough as a scorer for me to just place him in that S tier. And then in terms of leading his team to team success, definitely isn't there. Next up, we have Kawhi Leonard. Now, I feel like Kawhi has transformed into one of the more polarizing players in the league in terms of how you view him, because I can't really give him I still can. He still did end up getting injured this past playoffs, but he did have one of his healthiest seasons. And in this season where he played 68 games, he averaged 23.7 points, 6 rebounds, 3.6 assists, on really good efficiency, arguably some of the best efficiency of his career. 53% from the field, 42% from three, and 89% from the line. Things definitely dropped off in the playoffs, but again, he was injured. I'm sorry if this is box score watching, but I just don't think he was dominant enough this last season to put him in S. I'm sorry. Definitely didn't do anything in the playoffs to prove me wrong, because if he was averaging these numbers, right, and then in the playoffs he rose to what he typically does in the playoffs, to 28, 29, 30 points a game. Like I wouldn't be mad at putting him back in S, but having the season that you had, averaging 23, 24.6 rebounds, it wasn't like you had a great playmaking season. Defensively, you know, Kawhi is still Kawhi defensively, not DPOY level Kawhi, but still, you can still claim him as a two-way superstar, two-way star in the league. That's fine. But in terms of dominant play, Kawhi just wasn't dominant enough this season to be in S. Like, we're talking about 26 to 30 point per game scorers in the S tier on top of bringing other facets to the game. I just think Kawhi Leonard offensively just wasn't there for me to be an S, me personally. But if you want to put him there and still give him the benefit of the doubt, knowing what Kawhi can be in the playoffs, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. Next up, we have D-Book, and I don't even think I have to over-explain this. D-Book is in the tier below. I was actually kind of disappointed with the season that D-Book had, because if y'all remember how D-Book started this last season, he was kind of on one. But that definitely slowed down, and he didn't have the most dominant playoff run as well. But similar to D-Mitch, D-Book is definitely one of those players when on any given night, he cannot play any of these dudes in S, but he's just not there consistently for me to be at S. Next up, we have Ja Morant, tier below pretty easily. I do think this next upcoming season, he will remind a lot of people who the fuck Ja Morant is. And y'all better stop playing with Ja Morant's name. But even if Ja Morant was healthy this last season, I just don't know the season Ja Morant would have had to even still be in this S tier conversation. Like, is Ja Morant just being like a 65% shooter from the field, or is he taking a shooting leap? Like, is he taking a defense? Like, I don't know the leap Ja Morant would have even took this last season, and then he got injured. So, you know, I would just be happy to get the Ja Morant pre-suspension back at this point in time. But in terms of improvement, Ja Morant does have catching up to do. I'm gonna need to see the improvements before I put him in S. Shout out to Jalen Brunson, man. Definitely has become a fan favorite over this last season after the historic season that he had for the New York Knicks. Definitely changing the culture over there. Jalen Brunson, S or the tier below? I'm going to give him the nod, man. What I saw from Jalen Brunson last season was crazy. And I don't think it was fluky. I think those are things that Jalen Brunson is going to be doing over the next 2 to 3 years, maybe even 4. We're talking about a 30 point per game scorer. We're talking about a guy who dishes out 7 to 8 assists a game. Defensively, he's nothing to brag about, but especially for the difficulty of shots, the offensive load that he had, Jalen Brunson shooting, what was it? Pretty close to 50, 40, 90 was honestly kind of crazy. 28.7 on 48% shooting, 40% shooting, and 85%. Okay, not as close as I would want, but nevertheless, man, given everything, what a amazing season from Jalen Brunson. And for those numbers to jump, now I understand his efficiency went down, but that also primarily had to do with his offensive load. The things Jalen Brunson was doing in the playoffs was insane. I think he ran out of gas towards the end, but I need to remind y'all, there was a 5-game stretch where Jalen Brunson was averaging 42 points a game in the playoffs. Like that, those are insane numbers now, y'all. 42 points and 9 assists are insane numbers. Definitely slowed down after that, but at that point, slowing down for him was 29 points. Slowing down for him was 26 points. He did have this 18-point stinker, but then came back with 44 and then 31 and closed out the season with 17 and 9. Nah, I'm giving Jalen Brunson the benefit of the doubt, man. He is definitely in that S tier. He had arguably a better season than Steph Curry this last season. I just don't think that the quality of player that Steph Curry is, I'm still giving the benefit of the doubt, but nah, Jalen Brunson is a dog. Jalen Brunson is a dog. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt in S. As far as Jimmy and Bam, tier below. Now, let's go ahead and rank these players. Starting with the tier below, I think at the top of tier below for me is definitely Kawhi, Ant, and D-Mitch. I feel like the order, I'm going to go Ant, D-Mitch, Kawhi. But again, because they're in the same tier, I'm literally looking at this and saying, is Ant really better than Kawhi right now? I don't know. I'm gonna give the nod to Ant. Let's go Ant, D Mitch, Kawhi. I'm gonna go John Morant, then D Book. D Book might be better than Kawhi, man. I ain't gonna lie, man. I really wasn't impressed with Kawhi this last season. D Book averaged 27.7 assists, 5 boards, 49, 36, 87 in the playoffs. Still went up to 28 and 6. 3-point just wasn't there, but shot 95%. Ooh, I don't know, bruh. I'm gonna give the nod to D-Book over Ja. I'm leaving Kawhi right there. Jimmy, I'll still say over this last season, Jimmy was better than Bam, but next season, Bam should be better than Jimmy. I ain't gonna lie. But, okay, tier below, that's how I'm gonna rank it. The S tier, I'm going to put SGA because he's definitely borderline best in the world conversation to me. And then after SGA, things definitely get tricky. Definitely get tricky. SGA at 5. Do I go Bron at 6? Do I go Bron at 6? JT at 7. AD at 8. KD at 9. Or Curry at 9? I'm gonna give the edge to KD over this last season. Curry at 9. JB at 10? Is that the order for S? I'm not mad at this order, but I need to emphasize for you nimwits in the comment section, they are in the same tier. So I don't want, well, I will see them, but JT over KD? You're such a homer, Bsolz'S. They're literally in the same tier, and I'm having open dialogue right now that I'm having trouble putting these players in order. All right? God damn it. Okay? Give me a break. Give me a break. God. This order, JT still might be 6 though. I don't know. JT just isn't there for me. And then defensively, AD's definitely more dominant than JT, even though JT has climbed up those rankings. I'm gonna give JT the benefit of the doubt. I'll give him the homer bonus too when it comes to the AD discussion. And then best in the world, I'm gonna go Jokic in the front. I'm going to go Luka. I'm going to go Giannis and then Embiid. Giannis and then Embiid. I really want to see a relatively healthy playoff run from Giannis and Embiid this next season. I really think that'll separate things for me. But until I see that, yeah, I'm gonna give the edge to the guy that definitely has more sample sizes of rising in the playoffs and still doesn't have as bad injury issues compared to Embiid. And even with everything considered, when everyone is healthy, like Giannis is still that guy. So I'm gonna say Giannis is at 3, Luka at 2, Jokic at 1, and Embiid at 4, SGA at 5, Bron at 6, JT 7, AD 8, KD 9, Curry 10, Brunson 11, followed by Anthony Edwards, D Mitch, Kawhi, D Book, Ja, Jimmy, and Bam. And I guess the honorable mentions to this tier would be like Tyrese Halliburton would be in that, Trae Young, De'Aaron Fox, Jalen Brown would be honorable mentions in this tier. Sabonis probably, These are just quick hitters, by the way, so don't relax on me. Maybe Maxi's in that convo. I am not too mad at this list, y'all. I know y'all will definitely be, because that's just what happens over here. But with that being said, let me know what y'all think about this list, and I'm out of here, man. Peace.